Hi, Amy. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
Great. Are you great?
I'm doing good.
Am I getting you from Miami or Baltimore, or where are you dialing in from?
So I'm in Baltimore.
Beautiful, beautiful Baltimore. Before working with Ring of Honor, had you spent much time in Baltimore?
So not really, no. It's actually funny, but if I would have told myself years ago, hey, someday you're gonna live in Baltimore, I would not believe it.
Yeah, growing up as a kid, we did a few field trips to like the Baltimore Inner Harbor and Camden Yards, and that was all I really saw. But from what I see, it's really grown in the last 10 to 15 years, having world-class city kind of stuff.
For sure, it's not Miami, but I've
Right.
grown to like it.
Well, I mean, what is Miami comparatively? New York, LA, Chicago, Miami. That's kind of every bit of culture. No disrespect to everyone else, though.
Definitely not, yeah.
But we're here to talk about your success and all that. Is it correct online that you made your debut in the wrestling world in 2017?
So definitely as far as in-ring work, 2017 was when I had my first match, but I would say my professional debut in wrestling in general, 2015 is when I really started to get my feet wet.
That's a lot accomplished. This is a compliment. There's no backhanded thing coming. That's a lot accomplished in 6 years. I mean, think of the old school. How many people it took 10 years until they got one enhancement match on TV? So 6 years in, and you're already, hey, she's been on TV for years now. Does that blow your mind at all?
It does and it doesn't. I'm a very determined person, and I knew that this is what I wanted to do. The minute I decided to pursue this as a career, I wasn't going to take no for an answer, and I wasn't going to give up. So I'm not too surprised. I don't take no, so I just kept fighting.
Was there ever a plan B? And it's okay if the answer is no.
So outside of wrestling, before I started, working with Ring of Honor, I was a really good salesperson. Uh, Probably one of the top in the nation for cellular providers. Worked with pretty much almost all of them, and I've always been just top of the top tier. So that was my real job at the time. And once wrestling started to pick up, it was no looking back.
Wow. And when did that happen? About 3, 4 years ago?
Yeah, roughly. Uh-huh.
That is fantastic. So you've been with, I would say Ring of Honor has had like four different eras in the last like 4 or 5 years, but we finally seen it grow, and they took action and kind of led the industry when it came to COVID-19 safety and all that. So it's really inspiring to see how the company followed its own rules in a positive, wonderful way. I'm curious when you started to figure out, hey, Ring of Honor is not only here to stay, but let's listen to them.
For sure. I think the way they handled everything was top tier. It was really class. And there was a lot of companies that weren't taking care of people, unfortunately. They had to cut costs, which I understand at the same time. But Ring of Honor really went above and beyond to take care of us and to protect us. There was a really long time where I didn't even get to be at tapings. I wasn't involved on the shows, but I was doing everything possible through social media, YouTube, TikTok, whatever I could, just to create content for all the fans that were, stuck at home.
Yeah, and I was impressed with the first time I'd watched in a while on television, seeing how upgraded the production was, the tall ceilings, or at least it looks that way in the studio. Are you allowed to say where that studio is, or is that still kind of a secret due to COVID protocol?
So I don't think people know where it is anyways, but we do film in the Ring of Honor dojo, which is somewhere I'm very familiar with. It's like home for us. And so that's where we film a lot of our backstage interviews, stuff like that, sit downs. As far as the actual shows, that's actually filmed in an arena.
Well, oh yes, of course. I in New York over the last 10 to 15 years, I was used to seeing it at Hammerstein Ballroom, which, sometimes is playing to 3,000 people, sometimes it was in the smaller room. So Ring of Honor always knew how to play it up when it was really big, like the Madison Square Garden show, played up to intimacy. So credit to the company on that as well. And then you personally, what we see on screen You've been lighting the world on fire, destroyed Villain Enterprise and all that. I assume that you're the kind of person that accomplished everything that you wanted to and then regularly have to set new goals all the time.
For sure. There's a lot of goals that I set out to achieve with Ring of Honor. I started from the bottom. Speaking of Hammerstein, that was actually my first big pay-per-view with Ring of Honor. I wasn't under contract. I was just, working my way up. I was living in Florida. And I said, all right, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to make that jump. I went to Final Battle 2017 at the Hammerstein Ballroom. And they were super shocked, but very impressed with my ability to just, all right, let's go. And from there, I started ringing the bell and the rest was history.
Right. You mentioned before being a very determined person. Are you the kind of person that has this long list of goals and big to-do lists in general? Or are you the kind of person that goes, this is on brand and I'm going to do that?
So I think I always like to think of ahead of things. I always like to, stay on top of it. I don't necessarily have a list. I just, I know what I want. I know what I want to achieve. And sometimes the stars align. I think I'm a very lucky person on top of being a very hardworking person.
That's interesting that you see yourself as lucky. What I'm curious about that because people have different definitions of what luck is. I think Arsenio Hall once said, luck is when talent meets opportunity. So then when you think about it, it's not really luck per se. Why do you think that you're lucky?
I think I'm lucky because sometimes I'm just at the right place at the right time. And sometimes some really big things happen for me that I wasn't necessarily planning or thinking like, okay, this is my idea. But they just kind of fall into place and it works out. Like you said, talent meets opportunity and those opportunities tend to gravitate towards me. So I'm super thankful.
Cool. Well, 3 quick questions and then you're free. You're the kind of person that gives about 25 minutes information in about 7 minutes. So that's why we're wrapping. The first thing I want to know is, outside of wrestling, is there a number one hobby or passion for you?
So outside of wrestling, and a lot of my fans know that I love video games. That's probably my favorite thing to do when I'm not doing anything wrestling related. So just a lot of video games, Pokemon, Final Fantasy, whatever it takes.
And then that leads to my second question, which is, I haven't seen this. Have people pointed out the Amy Rose character from Sonic the Hedgehog? They have.
So I get that a lot, like all the time.
Well, in general, when it comes to gaming, is that something you've been a long-term fan of or something that you picked up in recent years?
No, that was something that I've always loved since I was a kid. I had an older brother growing up, so he was always playing video games, and I just followed in his footsteps.
Got it. Well, this last question, besides Ring of Honor, do you have a TV recommendation or two that you could pass along to somebody who needs a new show to start?
So it's not like a new show, but I would say 100% Game of Thrones was one of my favorites. I just rewatched it recently and I absolutely loved it just as much as the first time. So definitely Game of Thrones.
And Ring of Honor, of course, is what we should be watching each week. Throw me your social media handles and the places we should be looking for you at.
Yeah, for sure. Instagram, Twitter, you guys can follow me at RumbleBunny777.
There you go. Amy, thank you for your time. Keep up the great work and looking forward to seeing you live in New York when things are allowed to happen again.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Paltrocast.